welcome to another video. Today is going to be a slightly different type of video. Rather than talking about books, I'm going to be talking about my 2023 temperature blanket. So if you don't know what a temperature blanket is, that is when you knit or crochet one line every day and the colour you use is dependent on the day's temperature. So I got this idea from Holly Una. It's been going around for a very long time. I just only got into crochet this year, so it's only something that I recently discovered. But I decided that 2023 would be the year that I make a temperature blanket, or attempt to make a temperature blanket. So there was quite a lot of sort of prep that had to go into getting ready to make the temperature blanket. And the first thing that I did was try and work out what my temperature splits are going to be. So this actually took because I'm me, I did it in probably the most complicated way, and I did it all via spreadsheets and maths. Probably didn't need to do that. But yes, I took all of the 2021 daily temperatures, input them into a spreadsheet, did lots of formulas, worked out how often was each temperature repeated, what are we going to see coming up quite often, and worked out splits that way. I can go through how I did that if you are interested in another video, but it's basically just a lot of quite boring stats. So once I had my splits and I knew what kind of temperatures we got, I then made my temperature chart. So with this, I had to then think, the next thing I had to do was think basically what colours I was going to use. Some people do a full rainbow, so red right through to violet. I didn't want to do that. I chose to use blues, pinks and purples, and I chose to do that with that kind of colour scale of blue being cold and pink being warm. And I wanted all of my colours to have a sort of greyish undertone, just because I like grey. And again, blues, pinks and purples are all colours that I like, and like I said, I like grey, I like a grey undertone, so that's why I chose my colours. But I needed to know basically what kind of split I was having so that I knew how many colours to choose. My original thought was I would just make this easy for myself and I'd do 5-degree increments. This didn't work, and the main reason it didn't work is where I live in Cheltenham in the UK, most of our temperatures throughout the year falls roughly between 15 and 25 degrees. So that would only be 2 colours if I was doing 5-degree increments. And I didn't want the majority of my blanket to be just 2 colours. So I've split it down. Most of my increments are 3 degrees. There are a few that are wider because again, what's the likelihood of us using of that temperature coming up. All of my temperatures are in Celsius as well. Obviously I'm in the UK, we use Celsius. And yeah, I'm chosen that I'm going to use the daily high. So there is a discussion around using the daily average on the daily high. So Holly in her temperature blanket used the average. I've chosen to do the high just because I feel like it's a more accurate reflection of the day's temperature. I feel like if you're telling someone how hot it was, you use the high temperature. You don't go, oh, it was an average of this. You'd say, oh, it was like 30 degrees today or whatever. So I'm just going to scoot a bit closer so you can see the colours. So I've got my temperature gauge here. It's a very scrappy bit of cardboard that I've scribbled all over, but I'll show it this way and show you the colours. So I'm starting off with this silvery grey. And this is for any days where the high is below 4 degrees Celsius. Again, UK, especially Cheltenham where I live, is very temperate. It's not likely that we have days where we never get over 4 degrees. There's no point me starting at 0 because we very, very rarely get days where, again, the high temperature is 0. Yes, there was a very cold snap a couple of weeks ago, but that's a complete anomaly. I've then gone to this light blue, which is between 5 degrees and 8 degrees. Dark blue is 9 to 12. Dark purple is 13 to 16. Lilac is 17 to 20. This light pinky mauve colour is 21 to 24. This darker pink kind of rose colour is 25 to 30, and then this darker plum colour is 30 degrees plus. And I'm going to be doing month splits using a white. So I feel like I like all of the colours. I think they're going to work quite nicely together in a blanket. The lilac doesn't have the grey undertone that I would really like, but I don't think it's going to be too obvious that it's going to stand out and be a bit brighter when everything is in there. So these are my colours. In terms of how big I'm making it, I don't really know. I'm just going to basically start crocheting until it gets to a size I want. I'm probably going to be roughly the size of this blanket, which is a kind of lap blanket size. Obviously we're going to have 365 plus rows, and I'm saying plus because there's going to be the month splits in there as well. So it is going to be a fairly long blanket, but what I don't want is to have one that ends up just being really long and thin. So I want to give it a good width so it feels like it's going to be a good size blanket. But yeah, I did do lots of measuring and work out how big I needed to make it, but I'm just going to eye it and wing it, to be totally honest, because it's easier that way. So one thing that you might be wondering, I'm a reader, why am I not making a genre blanket? Great question. I actually, it's fallen on the floor here, I made a genre blanket this year, which is here, and I like it. I like the fact I've made it. However, I have issues with the genre blanket. Now, first of all, my first issue is with this genre blanket, I was just using leftover yarn that I had. I didn't plan out my colours to be a real like match colour. So while I feel that it's a quite nice range, these lines of mustard I feel stand out a little bit. I don't mind the pale yellow so much because it kind of fits in with the other tonal colours that I've got in there. But yeah, it's the colours I feel are a little bit sporadic. The other thing with a genre blanket is I am a very eclectic reader. This includes 9 genres, and even then I was really stretching some books to squeeze them into one of these 9 genres. So, you know, I had all of middle grade as one genre, which it isn't, but it had to be for this one because I had to fit in somewhere. So yeah, there was a difficulty in how many colours am I going to choose. And whereas with a temperature blanket, your temperature doesn't generally jump massive amounts, so it will be following a kind of gradient curve with my colours. So I feel like all of the colours are it's going to be quite a nice blanket in the end because the colours are going to match in quite nicely. And again, this is mainly because I'm just an eclectic reader. I was doing a different colour basically every day. This whole section here is a series that I read. It's a thriller series. It was St. Abbey, the Mindfuck series, which I put as thriller rather than romance because I was like, it's a thriller with a romance subplot rather than a romance with a thriller subplot. But that was just my opinion. But yes, so I have made a genre blanket. The other issue that I have with a genre blanket is you don't know how big it's going to be because you just crochet or knit one row for every book that you read. You're not going to know in January how many books you're going to read by December. Yes, you might have set yourself a goal. Yes, you might be able to look at how many you read last year. But we all know life happens. You don't know, is this going to be a year where you're going to go into a massive reading slump and not read very many books? Is it going to be a year that you think, oh, I won't read tons, so I'm going to start it off as just this wide, and then you end up with a very long, thin blanket? Like I said, it's basically, I just don't want something that's long and... Alright, I was going to say I don't want something that's long and thin, but that just sounds a little bit rude. So yes, I have got a genre blanket, which I am going to finish off. I need to do the border on this last bit, which is December and November. And then my genre blanket will be finished. But today I'm going to just get started on my 2023 temperature blanket. I've got to the end of my chain. I didn't count how many I chained because I probably should have, but I didn't. It's roughly the same size as this other blanket that I've made, and I'm quite happy with the width on that one. So I'm going to just do my first row in white, and then I'm going to get into my colours. I realise I also forgot to say this is just white yarn. I'm just using basic double knit yarn. I think this is from Hobbycraft, and I'm using a 5mm crochet hook, but just literally using what I feel like, to be honest. And I've then, once I do my first, let me just get back into the laptop. Once I do my first row in white, I'm then going to be starting on the colours, and I'm just going to show you where we are here. So what I have got, which I don't know how well you're going to be able to see, I've just got an Excel spreadsheet where, well actually it's Google Sheets, where I every day put in yesterday's high temperature, and I've got some conditional formatting on it so it will change the number to the right colour, just again because I'm weird like that. I also think it will help me kind of see what the whole blanket's going to look like. So we've had, it's going to be a mainly dark blue start, which is between 9 and 12 degrees, and literally everything is either 9 or 12 degrees. I've got a couple warmer days of a 13 degree purple, and I've got one colder day of an 8 degrees, which is a lighter blue, but the start of the blanket is all going to be mainly this dark blue colour, which is exciting. So I'm going to get started on that. My plan is, with my temperature blanket, to probably every week or every 2 weeks, just crochet the last 7 days. So I'm only having to do sort of 7 days at a time. I want to try and at the end of each month, make sure I'm caught up with that month. And again, that's what I'm thinking. If I do it once a week or once every other week, it's going to just be manageable rather than having a huge amount to do in one go. What I did with my genre blanket last year is at the end of each month did that month's books, and I normally read between about 10 and 15 books a month, so I feel like if I do end up doing it fortnightly, 14 rows should be fine because it's going to be a similar sort of width wise. So that's where I'm at. I'm going to carry on crocheting, and I will catch up with you when I finish the days I've got. Thanks. Of the year crocheted into my temperature blanket, and I'll show you a little bit closer in a second. I don't think I said earlier, but I'm just using single crochet. I feel like it is obviously going to be an enormous blanket anyway, so I don't want a huge stitch, but we've used a lot of this dark blue colour. I'm just again nearly finishing off this row. That's the colours we've got on the first I said, first 14 days. So we've got one row here, the second, that was 8 degrees. Everything else, and then we've had 3 days, which is purple, which is over 13 degrees. And everything else has been between 9 and 12. So we've got this dark blue, which I quite like actually. I think I really like the colour of the dark blue. I think it's a really nice deep colour, and I like how these colours are working together. Hopefully we'll have a little bit more temperature variation over the next couple of weeks, so it's not going to just be a full month of the same colour, because that would get a little bit boring. But I'm happy, looking good so far. While I've been crocheting, I've been listening to Spare by Prince Harry. To be totally honest, I really like his voice, and I was just very, very nosy, because ever since I was about 7 or 8, I've had a crush on Prince Harry, so having him narrate anything is absolutely okay by me. Quite honestly, I'd happily listen to his shopping list. But yeah, I'm up to the end of part 1. It is what it is. I'm not going to be kind of commenting on it too much, to be totally honest. I think it is interesting to hear anyone's memoirs. You know, there are 2 sides to every story, and I think he has clear, obviously, this is a silly statement, but obviously he had a very difficult childhood and very difficult upbringing. Difficult might be a strange word there. Incredibly privileged, but that I don't think that necessarily equates to easy. And I think there was possibly, you know, a certain amount of, not neglect, maybe being forgotten about a bit as a child, or being palmed off on someone else, which again happens to a lot of children. It's not something that I think is a unique position taken in and of itself. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. We're currently, he's just, so at the end of part 1, he has just graduated from Sandhurst, so is about to go off to war. So this is the first 2 weeks of my temperature blanket, which is now just kind of flipping there in the middle. So it's going to be about 1.5 meters wide. And like I said, with my colours, it's mainly all this dark blue, but I'm quite liking it. We've got a little bit of the light blue in there, and I'm excited to see what the next couple of weeks weather brings, so I can finish off January. I like the idea of having a year-long project, which I feel like I should be able to keep up with it pretty well, because it's something that I think is going to be nice to keep. And obviously this much, which is about 3 inches long, that's only 14 days. So by the time if we multiply that up for the full 12 months, can I do that maths? I don't know. It's going to be quite a big blanket, and I'm excited by that. It does make me wonder whether I bought enough yarn. I started with 2 balls of all of the colours, but I've already used quite a lot. Don't chew my crochet hook. Already used quite a lot of the denim, and I'm only 2 weeks in, so we may need to be thinking of getting some more yarn soon. But that was my crochet blanket video. If you enjoyed this, let me know. Come chat to me down below. Like, subscribe. I normally talk about books, but I will be at least monthly doing a a temperature blanket update. Let me know if you crochet or knit or do any other crafts, and if you just want to leave me an emoji. I don't know, is there like a blanket or a bed or something emoji? Give me something like that, something that's cozy and snuggly. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.